the scientist.
Suffice it that the blood of 1,000 men and women was spilled within these walls. Limbs twisted and broken, eyes gouged from bloody sockets, flesh burned black.
Please. You're with the dead. In death, there are no accidents, no coincidences, no mishaps, and no escapes. What you have to realize is that we're all just a mouse that a cat has by the tail.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
Hey guys,
How's it going? What's going on?
welcome to World of the Unexplained. I'm Trent Lackey.
I'm Jay Scott, and tonight we've got John Zaffis with us. Now, I interviewed in college. I interviewed his aunt and uncle, the esteemed Lorraine and Ed Warren. Actually, I only spoke with Lorraine. Let me scratch that. So I've interviewed Lorraine a couple times. Actually, really nice lady. They actually got John started into this whole paranormal investigation business years ago when he was a lot younger. And John has been all over the place. He's worked with a lot of famous people like Malachi Martin. He's worked with many different priest exorcists. He's going to share with us some of the things that he's found. He's also got a new book out now, his first book, I believe. I believe I'm accurate in saying that. We'll find out in a second. And so here's John Zaffis. John, you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, feedback problem.
Wow. Hey John.
How you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for being on our show.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. How's Lorraine and Ed doing?
Well, they're doing pretty good. Lorraine's doing pretty good. Ed's about the same, so...
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad you appeared on the show. This is your first book, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Tell us a little about it.
Shadow of the Darks is the first one.
Okay. And tell us about it.
Yeah.
What would you say to our listening audience about that?
Well, Shadows of the Dark took me about 10 years to write. Finally got it off the ground with the help of Brian McIntyre. And it basically covers the past 30 years of me being involved with the work.
Okay.
How I got involved with it, why I got involved with it, and basically wrote the book up and did the book as something people in the paranormal field can look at and read and associate it with some of the different types of cases that we get involved with. I covered 7 different cases within the book so that people can understand that, what to do, and how to be able to help people in need.
Okay.
Oh.
Now, I hear you have a museum.
Yes. A few years back, I decided to set up a museum with all the items I had stashed all over the place from all the years of collecting them from different investigations that I have done. And about 2 years ago, I said, well, time to set things up and see how things go with setting it up and documenting some of the items that were basically stashed all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And today I have a huge museum with hundreds of different artifacts from a lot of the different cases that I've worked on.
Now, where do you keep these? Where is this museum located? Is this in your house?
Yes, it's located at where my home is, and basically it's the lower level. Do I have a lot of activity? No.
I was going to say that it doesn't bother you having these haunted artifacts in your basement, basically.
Yeah. You know, the items that I chose to have in there basically have had bindings done on them. They've had prayers done over them. And there are items that I have not ever brought home. The biggest reason for that is some of these that come from different types of ritual sites and things like that do have a tremendous amount of power behind them.
Uh-huh.
And sometimes certain things just aren't worth keeping.
Yeah.
And I'll either bury them someplace on the property where we're investigating, or I will throw them into a body of water.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that was going to be one of my questions, because I looked at the website for the museum, which is, of course, located on your homepage, and there's some pretty interesting things that are cataloged there, at least on the website. And I guess my question was, what kept them? If they haunted the people that owned them, you know, what kept them from haunting you. So,
well, here again, a lot of times with items, do we know exactly that these items caused a problem, or was it a simple fact? Or was it a simple fact that these items have intermingled into other people's lives? Or is it the people? Or is it a combination of both that can be causing these problems?
Right.
This is where it takes time and research to evaluate. Now, you have to remember also, too, if there is something attached.
John, are you with us? John? I think we may have lost John. John, are you with us? Huh.
Really
Okay,
strange.
yeah. Why does this always happen? Especially when we have a film. We have a film crew tonight. Document. Yep, that's it. He's gone. All right. Oh, that was painful, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, just call him back.
Yeah, we're going to have to call John back. So, while we call John back, shoot here. Maybe.
Incidentally, the if you want to go directly to that website for the museum, and it's located on our website, or you can go to www.johnzaffis.paranormalmuseum.com. That's what we were talking about just now. You'll see a whole catalog of very interesting things.
Let me throw in. I'm going to throw in some Queensryche here.
Okay.
Off the new record.
New Queensryche.
New Queensryche. This is called I'm
Operation
American.
Mindcrime 2. Is that
Operation Mindcrime 2. That's correct. And I'll throw that in, and we'll be right back, guys. We're gonna have to call John. So check it out. Okay, and we're back. You know, I think they could hear everything we were saying there. I think I left the mic on. Yeah. Wonderful.
It makes it so real.
John, you with us now?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sorry about that, John.
That's okay.
All right, yeah, we're professionals here.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Okay.
Now let's get back to business.
Yeah, now back to business. So, what were we talking? We were talking about the haunted museum and things like that.
The objects of
and
power
so
or whatnot.
I guess I was wondering, you've worked with Malachi Martin.
Yes, I have.
You've worked with Father. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Father Yun. Is that correct?
Reverend June.
Reverend June. Okay.
Yep.
See, there we go. I try to pronounce something, I get it wrong. All right, Reverend June. You've worked with Malachi Martin. I've also heard that you've worked with Lou Gentili before on some of his stuff.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Lou and I go back many years. Him and I have intermingled with several different cases and tied in with a lot of different things. And he's one of my little brothers.
Oh, okay.
Great. Well, do you have any good stories from any of these
sure.
any of these collections that you've brought home? Anything interesting?
Well, just about every item that is on display today, especially the things that are up there, all of them have their own unique stories that intermingle with them. One of them that is very interesting is the idol, and that came from a young man that got himself involved with practicing Satanism.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And he didn't believe that these things existed and got himself very, very involved with it. By the time I was involved with it, the young man couldn't sleep, he couldn't function, he couldn't eat, couldn't even go to school.
Uh-huh.
He was 16 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he basically conjured up something that basically was attached to the idol, and it reached a point where it was actually telling him to kill himself.
Oh,
Wow.
So the parents got very concerned. We got involved with the case, and the young man did need an exorcism performed. And today he's doing very good. And a typical type of thing that happens with these people will always tell me they didn't believe these things worked until they got involved with it, and they opened up the doors, and they started having major things occur in their lives.
Now, are you Roman Catholic?
Yes, I'm Roman Catholic.
And you don't do any of these exorcisms yourself, do you? You take priests with you to do these, or do you do these yourself?
I'm Roman Catholic, but I'm very analytical. And when I say analytical, I work with many different faiths and different belief systems, because not everybody out there is Roman Catholic. So over the course of years, that opened up a whole different world with trying to understand a lot of the different religions out there, and I find them very fascinating. But the bottom line, what I had found was, no matter what the belief system is, most people believe in good and they believe in bad. They might call it by different terms, but all the religions out there do have rites of exorcism. They call it different things. They go about it in different procedures in different ways. But here again, the bottom line is, they all have some type of ritual they do to help the people of that denomination.
Right.
And intermingling in that and seeing some of the different things that, reverends and ministers and priests and rabbis, watching some of the things that they have done, they've been very, very successful with helping people, and that's the bottom line.
Okay.
As long as a family gets help.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point to make. I mean, that, if someone isn't Roman Catholic, or I don't know, even Christian for that matter, but believes in some other, faith, that, it's not necessarily true that Roman Catholicism would work for them, but the faith that they do believe in would,
Absolutely. So. There's a lot of different things, look at with our Native Americans, they call them medicine mans, they call them shamans, and I've intermingled.
I thought it was the power of Christ that compelled you, though. Sorry, I had to say that.
That works with some of the religions, but not every religion is going to base their belief systems off of what we believe in.
Well, then here's a hardball.
Go ahead.
Then here's a hardball. If you yourself are Roman Catholic and you believe in the whole idea of Christ being the Son of God and being the one that, when we look in the New Testament, we see him casting out Legion and things like that. I mean, wouldn't that be the only way to go?
If you're a Roman Catholic, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm a paranormal investigator, and my job is to investigate, and it's to basically intermingle with a lot of different religions and belief systems. If you're within your box and you can't look outside of your box, you'll never learn and you'll never advance. So even though my belief systems are what I believe in, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm interested in cramming that down anybody else's throat or trying to convert anybody. And you have to look at things beyond your own scope to be able to help people. And that's more of a Christian way of looking at things than even some of our conformed religions, if you will. So that's, to me, is, something that I've learned to come to understand, and a very healthy thing, no matter what religious beliefs people are or what they believe in. That's okay. I'm not there to judge them.
Right.
Well, what are some of the strange things that you've seen? I mean, I guess what's the weirdest, craziest stuff that you've seen during an exorcism before, John?
The craziest things that occur that I've been witness to is that they gain an enormous amount of strength. They will talk in a voice that is very piercing, and it doesn't just come from them; it comes from all the way around them. It's almost like stereo, and it goes right through you. Now, with that, I've seen people have marks appear on them. I've seen bite marks, scratches. I've worked with one young lady where the word "die" came right across the back of her. I've seen another woman where a cross actually was burnt into her chest. So these are the types of occurrences that do occur. Now, do these types of things happen with all the exorcisms? No. You can do and be involved with 10 exorcisms, and maybe 2 out of that 10 might have some outward manifestations that do occur. Not all of them do. That doesn't necessarily always mean that they're not successful.
Wow. Does any of this stuff bother you at night when you go to bed? I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah, when I was younger, yes. When you're just getting involved with these things, those things, they do pry on your mind, and you are concerned about those things. You're concerned about your family and stuff.
Yeah.
And they do. But you do learn over the course of time what to judge and how to handle these types of situations. And the best way I can describe it, it's almost like being a doctor or a nurse. They walk out of the operation room, they go through all this trauma and everything like that. They can shut it down and leave it behind. Well, as a paranormal investigator, that's a key thing to learn how to do. When you're done with an investigation or you're leaving an exorcism, one of the key things is to put that behind you, because it will pry on you, and it will come back on you continuously if you don't learn how to be able to do those things. It's almost like disassociating, if you will.
Uh-huh.
It's the best way I've ever been able to describe it.
Have you ever brought anything home with you?
Occasionally I do, and there's the different types of things that occur. You'll get bangings, you'll get tappings. Sometimes you'll hear voices, or you'll have different types of things that occur. And I'm a very strong believer in the power of prayer. And if there are situations where things are that escalated, I'm fortunate enough where I know several different clergy members right around, and if it's 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I ain't going to think twice about banging on the door and waking them up.
That's understandable.
Well, Trent had an experience years ago in his car. You know which one I'm referring to?
Oh, yeah, I sure did.
Tell him about this.
Okay,
This is
yeah,
crazy.
it was really weird, John. Basically, I was coming home late from some friend's house, and it was probably about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And, it was one of those kind of creepy nights, I guess, but, I don't mind them, and driving around back country roads on my way home. And essentially what started happening was I started hearing, for lack of better terms, some kind of tapping or rapping on my windshield. And I thought, well, maybe I shut the door and there was a twig or something in the door, and it was rattling on. So I stopped the car and opened the door, and there was nothing. Mm-hmm. So I kept on driving, and the tapping kept on coming from a certain area in the car. But then, as I drove on, it started knocking and tapping in every one of the windows, intermittently, over here on the passenger side, and the back window, the rear window, the front window. And then it started tapping all over the car, and it came to the point where it started to be like loud banging, loud noises, like there were things on the car, like knocking and scraping. And it was really terrifying. And to tell you the truth, I prayed and I drove fast, But then what was really interesting was, as I was just speeding on my way home, not really sure what to do. I mean, I basically turned on the road where my house is, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, nothing. It stopped. It was basically like there was knocking and tapping from multiple sources, multiple occasions, and then as soon as I turned onto my road, there was absolutely nothing. It just went dead silent. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know what to explain that, but
well, that's a very common occurrence, especially in the cars when you're at different locations, you're involved with different things. You'll have something that will transpire with the car. You can remember it's a very closed-in, confined area.
Right.
So naturally, you're going to have, activity taking place within the car. Tappings, the rappings, the radio changing. The car can just shut off. I mean, I can't tell you how many different times I've experienced different things to that degree. And a key thing I always tell people, no matter what your belief system is, call upon the positive. Mm-hmm. And I'm Roman Catholic, so right away the holy water starts flying around all over inside the car.
Right.
So that's my way of trying to combat those types of things. Good example, a car story. We were heading to go do a exorcism in this particular house, and it was maybe about 2 hours from where I lived. I had major car problems. It took us 6 hours to get there. Huh. By the time we got there and everything, I turned and I looked at the priest and I said, "Do me a favor, do something over the car so we can get back home." So he did the praying. He did some prayers over it and threw the holy water and everything over it. We went in the home. He did the exorcism within the home and everything, and we left, and we had no car problems after that.
Wow. This actually brought to mind when I was talking about that story, and that there's a lot of times the myths are full of these kind of stories of people traveling along roads and are sort of waylaid by sort of imps or negative spirits that basically harass the driver. And this goes all the way back, when they're horse and buggies, and it seems to be a pretty common and very ancient sort of tale of these sort of creatures that sort of bother the traveler, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, so obviously, just because we drive automobiles doesn't mean they haven't gone away.
That's true.
No.
You know?
No, I have another question. Is it something that you've seen? How often or how many times in general does an exorcism have to be repeated for it to take? In your experience,
the majority of the time it has to be repeated several times. There are the occasions where one exorcism has been done and it is successful, but a lot of times they do have to be repeated. Now, there's several key factors that come into play when they do have to be repeated. We know that when a person has a demon with them, there's multiple demons. It's very seldomly just one. So it's almost like stripping away layers is the best way I can describe it to you. Each time that this is done, it helps to remove something else. I worked on one case, and it was 4 years, and it took 16 exorcisms to be able to free this woman. But she had 10 years of actually being free. Huh. So it was, you know, a lot of times they can become time-consuming. They could take their toll on you. It could and the majority of the time, dealing with these more negative-type situations, you'll find researchers will turn on each other. The families will turn on the researchers, vice versa. And it's the very most bizarre things that take place in these types of situations. Why does that occur? Because it does not want you to be able to help a person. So therefore, it will throw major stumbling blocks in the way of trying to be able to help a person. So these are key factors and things that I come up against even today when getting involved with certain types of cases on trying to help somebody.
Now, Trent doesn't believe that a person can be demonically possessed. Yeah, we've had this argument for a year. I believe that they can. He believes that they can't.
I have a pretty...
Maybe you should take him with you sometime, John, and let him see.
Maybe. I guess if I saw it firsthand,
you know,
I might...
that's a very common thing today. That's not anything unusual at all, because you got to remember, when you look at these different types of things, people try to look for something logical. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
We know people have mental illness. We know people are bipolar, schizophrenia. We know this. These are common threads, and these are basically things that have to be ruled out when you're dealing with somebody that has a good possibility of being possessed. So when somebody says something to me like that, that's okay. Because a lot of times I could tell you of a couple of priests I know that have been in the presence of a person that was possessed and didn't believe they were possessed.
Huh.
So that's not an unusual thing. That's a healthy way to look at things. It really is. Because we all need proof of understanding with this. Back when I was in my 20s, when, you know, my uncle used to tell me the horror stories about people being possessed, I used to go, yeah. I never seen it, never experienced it. I was never intertwined with all the different clergy, so therefore I never believed it. When I started getting involved with it and started intermingling with clergy and all these different faiths and watching what these people went through and seeing the same type of scenario in case after case after case, then you have to stop and look at things. Because there's one thing that's very key and very prominent, and I always try to get investigators and people to understand this. We deal with the paranormal. It's the unknown. 33 years into this work, I'm still understanding some of the things, how they work, why they work, how they present themselves, how they intermingle in our mortal lives to cause the problems that they do. And it's a bizarre thing. When you come up against this and you've never been exposed to it, how could you believe it? You never witnessed it, you never seen it. So therefore, it's something that's very, very hard to accept.
I've got another question real quick, Trent.
Okay, yeah.
I've read Malachi Martin's book, Hostage to the Devil, that he wrote, I think, in 76.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, all the stories that are involved in that book. But one of the questions that always came to my mind was, you're taught as a Christian. I myself am a Christian, good old Southern Baptist here, but you're taught as a Christian, that once you invite Christ into your heart, into your body, then the Holy Spirit becomes one with you. Now, a person that's a Christian, how does that, if the Holy Spirit, which is part of the Trinity, is within someone, how does that allow for that demon to come in?
It's called free will.
Uh-huh.
Most people have a hard time understanding that. We all have free will. And at different points and different times, people do make mistakes. People do things that they kind of wish they didn't do. Once you grant permission for something to enter your life, then you can end up having major problems. Now, another key factor is what could be a grand prize. Someone that is an extremely, extremely religious individual. Doesn't matter what the denomination is. That is a grand prize for them to be able to win that individual over and enter their lives and possess them and, cause all kinds of havoc. So therefore, yes, if you have an individual that walks completely in the pure light, they've never done anything wrong in their entire life, 99% of the time, they're not going to have a problem. But we're mortals. We're people. We make mistakes.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we get ourselves involved in situations that are completely innocent. And this is where a lot of times you'll find out that someone has granted permission for something like this to enter their lives.
Yeah, I guess it would have to come to that because basically if someone is protected by Jesus Christ or God the Father, I mean, it's the Holy Trinity, and it's you're not messing with you're messing with the whole deific power basically, and they're not going to let the devil come in. I mean, in my opinion.
So you say free will, it's like you're inviting, you have to give it permission to come in.
And therefore
exactly.
That's how it goes. Exactly. But otherwise it wouldn't.
Well, here's something else, dear. You really want to throw a twist into something. You look back and you read through so many different things. Here again, doesn't matter the religion. Some of your most spiritual people were the most tormented people by the demons and the devils.
Huh.
It's written. It's been written for thousands and thousands of years. Why? Here again, it is the grandeur of them trying to be able to break that person down and to be able to enter their lives and torment them. So some of your most religious people in the world were very, very tormented individuals.
I guess they're a bigger target. Maybe, I don't know.
We're gonna have to take a short break. We're here with John Zaffis, and you can call us here after the break in the studio at 800-960-2289 or locally 336-996-1596.
We'll give those numbers again after the break.
And they're on our website at worldoftheunexplained.com. We'll go to a break and we'll be right back. Hang on the line with us, John.
Okay.
Alrighty.
There are some things in this world that go way beyond human understanding. Things that cannot be explained. Things that most people don't want to know about.
But we're going to talk about them anyway. World of the Unexplained with Jay Scott and Trent Blackie. Heard Mondays live from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern on the OmniSound Radio 1 network.
Right here, baby.
www.omnisoundradio1.net.
And we're back with John Zaffis.
Oh, man, I do that every time.
That's
John, you
great.
still. I hope I'm not making you deaf tonight.
Nah.
Okay, that's good.
Let me give those numbers out again. 1-800-960-2289. That's 800-960-2289. Or locally, 336-996-1596. We're here live with John Zaffis.
Okay, I just thought of a question actually just now while Scott was saying that. It's concerning the physical world and spiritual entities, and basically involves stuff in your museum and anything in particular. If groups of people sort of give the impression that a certain object or place has some kind of power, does that give the object or place power? And if so, is it coming from some other realm, or is it simply the collective well-being or ill-being of the people who collect, who congregate there and
all of the above
make the power? Okay.
It would be all of the above. Yeah, you have to remember, when there are certain items that I do have in cases, because you are going to have people that are very, how can you say, interested in knowing if it has something attached to it. And people, do different things, and they're involved with different things, so therefore, could they possibly have something with them? Could they possibly do something to reunite that spirit or bring another spirit and attach it to the item? That's a good possibility, and you always got to be very careful of those types of things. So naturally, after I do a museum tour or I'm teaching or anything like that, there are a set of prayers that I do through the museum and the classroom and other areas throughout the lower level here to basically help protect things.
Right.
Because here again, people are always very inquisitive, and they're very interested in knowing and experimenting.
Huh. Okay. Well,
let me cut in real quick again here. I just wanted to tell the listeners that they can also pop into the chat room with us. They can go to omnisoundradio1.net, click on chat, make up a name and a password, and I think you have to register now, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, you can get in that way, or you can go to worldoftheunexplained.com, and you can click on chat there, and you can join the conversation. If you don't want to call in, you can, if you're shy, you can get on through the chat room and ask a question there, and we'll be more than happy to relate it to John.
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, along that train of thought, if an evil spirit should somehow be able to enter this world through their, for example, like the idol, and I've seen that idol, and it's pretty sinister, I guess. But let's just take that for an example. The young man performed the rituals to do whatever he wanted to, whatever he was trying to get out of it, and so this creature pops into the world. Is it because of the idol, and is that sort of like the focal point for its presence here?
With what you have to remember is that in that situation with the young man, he basically did what we refer to as summons and had basically brought something forth. And his whole thing was, with a lot of these items, it's not necessarily the item, it's the individuals. Those are the ones that are being affected. So therefore, he felt that what he conjured up was definitely going to reside within that idol. Now, here again, from a logical perspective and knowing what people do, that particular demon that he had summoned up was giving him the info that it resided within that. Now, do I necessarily feel that there was the possibility that it resided within the item? Good possibility, but more than most likely, it was something that was nearby, and it was more likely attached to the young man than it was ever actually to the idol.
Okay.
Because you have to remember, with most of these things, whether you want to call it something on a positive, you want to call it a negative, it needs an energy source, which is us. So therefore, they're going to more than most likely be within that vicinity of a person.
So these creatures would more or less just, I'm assuming, just feed off of whatever it is that we give off. Is that what you're getting at? That they?
Well, we are energy.
Yeah.
You have to remember, we are basically energy, and that's the source that they need to be able to manifest and to be able to do things. It's just like with electricity. It's the same type of thing. It's an energy source.
Right.
And things need things to be able to manipulate and do things, and they can basically harness it and draw from different types of energy sources. And the most common when you're dealing with these types of things would be a individual.
And so, consequently, on that note, when you perform exorcisms, or when to try to drive the creature out, then there, I guess, is some other other kind of energy. Let's just say negative versus positive. You know, the negative would, in this case, sort of drive it away somehow.
Are you asking me when an exorcism is performed and it's cast out of an individual?
Yeah, and that there's some other energy being drawn upon to...
Absolutely.
Okay.
What you have to remember, here again, we believe in positive and we believe in negative. So on a positive note, I believe very, very strongly in the power of prayer. And with your angelic angels and things like that, those are called upon when your exorcisms are being performed. And that pure white light of energy is called upon to be able to enter that individual, to be able to help them to gain the strength back of their free will. So I am a very firm believer in that, yes.
Okay.
Do you notice... I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you notice in most of your cases that you deal with, I know that Father Malachi Martin mentioned it before in his book, just a smell, just a rancid odor. Is that present in every case, or is that present in a majority of cases, or do you even notice that at all?
I would say it's pretty prominent, but not in every case, no. You have several different odors that are very, very consistent, and usually they're very pungent. And you could try to associate it, but is it apparent in every case? No. It's usually when you're dealing with something that is very strong and very powerful that, when a person is possessed, the majority of the time you're already dealing with something on the hierarchy. So therefore, when a pure possession is taking place and that person is being exorcised, you're going to get some types of odors that can and will occur. Now, one way of knowing sometimes that something has been successful, and I've even experienced this during deliverances, where a very powerful fragrance of different perfumes or flowers will come through. And that tells us that something on a positive note has transpired. So not necessarily where, you're going through this whole exorcism, there was no outward manifestations, maybe the person twitched a little or they did something, but then again, you'll get that positive effect that will come in. And like I said, the most common smell that most of us pick up on when something very positive occurred is roses. You'll get the scent of that.
Oh, okay.
It'll come in, it'll be very spontaneous, and it goes away just as fast as it started. And I'll tell you what, the majority of the time when that does transpire, it's usually been a very successful event.
Okay. Well, what about
Sorry. Sorry about
I think
that.
Scott just likes to interrupt.
I just like the feedback.
We all love feedback, Scott, but not during the interview.
I know.
What about the nature of whenever somebody is possessed, and you hear accounts of this too, of the people sort of, the possessor speaking in sort of these dead tongues or languages that no one understands, Aramaic, so on and so forth. Has that ever occurred during one of these sessions?
The most common thing that I've been exposed to would be Latin, and there's very, very little Latin I know. I'm fortunate where some of the clergy I've worked with does understand Latin, and they're able to basically tell us what they are saying. Now, you have to remember, too, with a lot of this, they will give you words that make absolutely no sense whatsoever.
Okay.
And that's where it can get very, very difficult trying to piece together. If you're fortunate enough where a name does come forth, you got to be hopeful that they're not giving you a fake name to cover their identity. So when clearings or any type of exorcism or deliverance is being done, there is a very, very broad way that is done to encompass everything that can be thrown out to deceive the clergy that is involved with that.
Yeah, because I've heard in the past that the act of naming or coming up with a name gives the exorcist or the other people a certain amount of power, to actually be able to specifically identify, whatever evil source it is. Is that true as well?
That's very true. The case I was talking about earlier with the 16 exorcisms.
Mm-hmm.
At the very last exorcism, Bishop McKenna was able to get a couple of the names of the main demons that were tormenting this woman.
Mm-hmm.
And once he had those names, he was able to cast them out of that individual. So yes, that is true, that if you can get the correct name and it does come out with it and the clergy is able to work with that, then it can be cast out of that individual.
But going along those lines, if the possessor is, a demonic force, then it would probably try its best to avoid that. So it seems to me that, I don't know. Like I said, I'm no expert, and I'm a little skeptical about the whole thing. But I mean, it seems to be that the exorcist would have to, I don't know, maybe use a certain amount of trickery or something to sort of, or is it more like just force of will, forcing the creature to reveal itself? I mean, which one is it, or is it a little bit of both?
It's actually both. You have to remember too, we have what we refer to as transient possession.
Okay.
Where a person that has had something with them for a multiple of years. Now, these people can and will have something come in and out of them. Sometimes it is brought forth by the individual, and it can also stay away from that individual, especially if you're bringing that person in for help.
Mm-hmm.
They do have the ability to be able to do that. You want to call it trickery? Absolutely. Deceiving you? Absolutely. But these are the types of things that it will do to stop an exorcism from being successful. That's why a lot of times when a person is cleared, or you're trying to get that person some type of help as far as exorcism or deliverance, and there isn't any reaction, sometimes we don't know till a couple of days afterwards whether that was successful or not.
Right. Because then they could maybe go into hiding and, pretend that they're gone and then come back?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, it would make sense. Okay. It would make sense that, demons, just by their nature as being deceitful and hateful creatures, would do their best to do anything to,
How many people have you helped, John, in the past year?
Oh, probably in the past year, I'd say I been involved. Oh gosh, I gave up even counting. Yep, you have to remember, I intermingle so much, not only with just what comes in on my organization, but I intermingle with a lot of the other organizations, a lot of the clergy that is out there today. So in a given week, I can tell you, I can get involved with anything from five cases up to anywhere it's like 20, 25 cases a week. So that isn't unusual. Now, when I tell you I get involved, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going out on the site. It could be that I'm helping somebody over the telephone. It could be somebody that's out in California that needs help, where I'll, get them involved with somebody I know out there. So today, I get involved with so much that it's very hard for me to even say to you exactly what I do a week now.
That's wow. There's a lot of I don't know, what the word I'm looking for, a lot of disturbed people, a lot of demonically oppressed or diabolically oppressed, I guess would be
and each one of each one of these cases, I mean, they really are. Have you ever come across an exorcism where the priest or you sort of look at each other and go like, oh well, maybe this isn't the thing? I mean, has it just turned out to be just cases of people with schizophrenia or undiagnosed mental illnesses?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You have to remember another thing to understand, especially if you're dealing with your older clergy, and the parishioner comes to them, and they're having some of these things. It's a very, very old belief with your older clergy that they feel that might necessarily be a demon that might be afflicting that individual.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times when I intermingle with these cases, here again, to me, it's very important to rule out that, there's no mental illness. And, I've seen some ministers and priests get themselves involved with situations where they just keep doing exorcism after exorcism, and the bottom line is the person's just plain nuts.
Huh. Okay.
So, it happens, but here again, I don't necessarily look down on anybody for trying to help somebody.
Well, yeah, I mean, either way you go, I mean, if it does turn out to be a mental illness, then they'll still, you can recognize it and they'll get help that way too.
Right, exactly. That's the way I always look at it too. I mean, here again, if clergy jumped in and I'm able to help them, and I feel, definitely that this person needs some type of help, and it's on a medical basis, I will pipe right up and say that very, very fast.
Okay.
I'm going to give those numbers again. Guys, we've got a filmmaker, documentarian in our studio tonight, and we want some phone calls so we don't look bad. So y'all called in last week, calling this week.
Oh, they call in every week, Scott.
The number is 1-800-960-2289. That's 800-960-2289. You can also access that from worldoftheunexplained.com, or the local number is 336-996-1596. Call us up, talk to John. I promise he won't bite you, and ask him some questions here.
Yeah. Okay. What about places, John? That's another thing that sort of interests me. Haunted houses or places where maybe rituals had occurred, be it a grove or I don't know,
like Amityville.
Amityville, any kind of place where it's not so much a possessing entity possessing a person, but it's some kind of spirit or unclean thing that just wants to torment an area and gives it a bad feeling. What about those, John?
A very common type of scenario is you have places where different types of people do a lot of practicing, and those are very spiritual areas to them. These are very, very guarded areas, and they call upon different types of spirit to protect those areas. So therefore, you're going to have these locations that are going to be haunted. Now, with houses, you have to remember you have different scenarios that are going to take place. You have a haunted house that can have human spirit, where you go in there to do an exorcism. An exorcism isn't going to do anything on a human spirit, and it's a totally different way you have to handle that type of a scenario. So a haunted house, that's going to depend. Now, did you have somebody that lived in there and they were involved with practicing something from the dark side? That's going to be handled totally differently than I would handle something that had human spirit in it. So that's where your investigation can get into depth, trying to figure out what happened, what could have possibly happened in that house that could have caused that haunting to be triggered.
Oh, we got a caller.
Hello, caller. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
My name is Laura, and I'm calling from Kansas.
Oh, hey, Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hi. I was wanting to know, I've done some work in this field before as a, I guess, house cleanser or something like that. And I've always wondered, where do these things go once you get rid of them?
Okay, you were clearing property? You went in and did some clearings in houses?
Uh-huh.
Okay, where did you cast them back to?
I just asked them to leave. I didn't really cast them anywhere.
Okay.
Is there a particular place where you need to cast them to?
Well, here again, that depends on, if you're dealing with human spirit, you would tell them to cross over to go to the light. And if
right, I've done that part.
Okay. And if you were dealing with something on a negative, which it doesn't sound like you actually got involved with that would be a whole another process where you would cast it to go back to where it came from. So
gotcha.
Right. It would be handled in two different ways, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that.
So what do you do in a situation where it's the person, but where they go, it affects their surroundings? Like, say, they live in a home, but it appears they're possessed. They move around to different locations and have the same, sort of the poltergeist type of setting. Do you deal with them the same as you would as a regular, like, what's the word? Possession?
Okay. I think I understand what you're asking me. We have haunted houses and we have haunted people. Haunted people, things will follow them no matter where they go. And the majority of the time, what I've found over the years is that these people basically have an attachment to them. And you'll also find that those types of individuals are very, very sensitive, or they're psychic individuals. And spirit attracts to those types of people. So therefore, it takes a lot of counseling and trying to help those people to understand what is happening with them and why it is happening with them. Their psyche is open. And when a person's psyche is open, spirit attracts to those individuals. And it can be very tormenting. And it can be very hard for a person to understand that. So therefore, a lot of times it takes time, and a lot of times with these types of people, I will refer them to people that are out there in the field that, they're gifted or they're psychic, and, they are able to help them to understand some of the things that makes them so different from everybody else.
Whoa.
So do you find that as a trend that a lot of psychics have depression issues?
Depression issues? The majority of the time, people that are, gifted individuals, they're tormented people. And they really do not like having the gift of communication with the spirit world. I'm not talking about the phonies. I'm talking about the real McCoy. They really are tormented people. And it takes a lot for them to understand why them and not everybody is like that. Why doesn't everybody hear the spirits? So, well, yeah, I guess you could say they could suffer from depression, because here again, that's a whole process that they're trying to understand on why they're different from other people. So, yeah, I guess they could suffer from depression, yes.
Well, Laura, thank you for calling. We appreciate it. We're going to have to go to a break now. Did that get everything for you? Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
All right, and we're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back with John Zaffis, and we hope to get more of your calls. Laura, thanks for calling. Laura hosts another show on our network called Full Moon Radio, by the way, for those of you that don't know. And anyway, we're going to be right back in about 4 minutes, and we'll be back with John Zaffis.
Okay, see you in a bit.
Well, and we're back. I do that every time.
Yeah, sorry about that, John. I guess I should have informed you. We'll catch you on the next break. You still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great.
I sort of. Yeah, we got a minute? No, we got seconds. I'm sorry about that, John.
That's okay.
But actually, just to go on what we were talking about over the phone, the business of exorcism can be a dangerous one. I take it, and so could you give us some accounts of situations where you or the people or the exorcists themselves have actually been in physical harm, either there or other times?
The one thing, and I reflect upon it very much now in comparison to what I did when I was a kid, is that, I so bad I wanted to get involved with this, and I wanted to know if people got possessed. I wanted to know if all these things were for real. And my uncle basically did everything he could to basically keep me out of it. And, finally just reached a point, I was like, well, okay, fine. If you're not going to let me see it and get involved with it, I'll go find someplace else. And my uncle basically said, no, I'll keep you with me so I can keep an eye on you and make sure you're all right.
Right.
He basically sat me down, and like I said, I reflect upon it now, and I didn't back then, where he went into all the different things. He goes, John, it doesn't run around with hooves and tails and horns. It works behind the scenes. It affects your family. It affects your friendships. He says it affects everything about your life. And once you cross that line and you start getting involved with dealing with possessed people and dealing with all this demonic stuff and everything, he said your life will never be the same. And you'll never, ever be able to walk away from this and totally put it behind you. And he went into a lot more depth and covered a lot more things. And I just remembered the tail end of the conversation, and he said to me, he goes, well, what do you think? Because he always called me kid. He goes, what do you think, kid? And I go, well, I'm not too worried about it. And he looked at me, he goes, I am worried about it. He goes, you are my blood and you are my nephew, and I don't want to have to deal with my sister if anything ever happens to you.
Right.
So did I learn that these things do operate and work in ways that I never thought was possible? Yeah. Does it affect your friendships? Yeah. Your relationships with other researchers. I've watched myself and other researchers turn on each other. I've lost very good friends in this work because of being involved with dealing with this stuff. It affects so many things in your life, and you just sit back and you'll look at everything and go, is this coincidental? Or are these things really happening? And then when it happens time and time and time again, you realize what is happening, how it falls into play, how it affects you. And as long as you realize it and you know what's happening, you can understand it to be able to help other people understand what these things are about and what it's like. Have I tried to walk away from being involved with this work? Many times, where I've just said, you know what, I don't want to deal with this no more. I don't want any more involvement with it. And what ends up turning around happening is someone will call. I will get a phone call from clergy I know or other researchers I know, and I always manage to get pulled back in it. Well, 10 years ago, I said, the heck with it. I might as well just stay in it because I'm not able to get out of it.
They keep pulling me back in.
we get a call.
And it's ironic. You get pulled right back in, because I'll just sit, and many times I'll be sitting and just trying to have a normal type of thing, sitting watching TV with my wife, and the phone will ring, and my wife will look at me and go, aren't you going to answer it? I'll go, no, I just want to sit here and watch TV with you. And I'll listen to the answering machine, and I end up picking the phone up.
Well, John, we've got another caller. Hang tight.
Okay.
Caller, where are you from? What's your question?
From Northern Virginia. The question I would have is, how does the guest distinguish between those with real spiritual problems and those who are simply mentally ill?
Okay.
One of the key things with that is, how do you distinguish between mental illness and a person that's having an actual paranormal problem, is to be able to rule out things. It's very important. Okay, when I talk to a person and they're telling me the symptoms that they're having, my natural reaction is, okay, has this person been to their doctor? Have they been to a psychiatrist? Is there some type of trauma that's taken place in their life that could be causing some of these things? These are important things to be able to rule out when you get involved with doing these types of investigations. Then it's a key thing to talk to family members, talk to friends, talk to clergy if they're involved with them. My thing is to talk to as many people as I possibly can that's affiliated with that individual, because people are going to be very honest with you when it comes to somebody they care about, and they're going to tell you like it is. And when somebody says to me, John, they changed over the past year, they withdrew, they won't talk to us no more. We've had them to psychiatrists, we've gotten our clergy involved, we've done everything that we could possibly think of. There's no logical or scientific reason why this could be occurring. That's the way I have to look at these types of things. And I have to rule out a lot of these different things when getting involved with these cases. Absolutely. But here again, you cannot necessarily rule out the fact because a person has a mental illness or they have something wrong with them that there's a possibility there could be something lingering or attached with that individual. I've been involved with situations, and if I didn't witness it and see it with my own eyes, where I've seen clergy go into institutions, perform exorcisms over individuals, and those people did get better. Were they cured? No, but they did get better. So here again, we have to look at the big equation. We have to understand it and realize some of the things that we deal with. An important thing, too, is I always tell everybody, if you're able to go in and spend some time with these types of individuals and you're witness to something occurring around that individual or with that individual, that's very important as far as being a researcher and reaching out to be able to help that individual and to be able to bring them in help, whether it be medical or on a spiritual level.
Okay, does that answer your question?
Another question, fellas.
Okay.
What makes you qualify that...
Hello?
Yeah?
Possessed, because
I'm sorry,
the
I didn't hear
American
you.
Psychiatric Association says there's no such thing.
What was the question, caller?
We lost you there.
The question was, what makes the guest mentally ill and who is truly possessed? Because it seems like certainly culling through these folks.
Being involved with this work, understanding it, I've taken a tremendous amount of courses over the years to learn how to look to distinguish the different things, being involved with the clergy, working with people, working with other people out in the field. Today, intermingling with psychiatrists and therapists is more common now than it ever has been before. And when these people come up against something and they'll say, I don't believe in possession, I don't believe in the things that you talk about, but I cannot explain what is happening to my patient. None of the medications are working. Nothing's happening whatsoever. When you learn this field and you understand this field, an important thing is hands-on is very important. You can't learn everything out of a book. A person can't teach you all these things. It's a combination of all the above. Do I have a set degree? No. And I've never claimed to have one. But what I base my work on, what I've been involved with, is 33 years of being involved with this and intermingling with so many different people out there.
Okay.
All right, well, we appreciate the call.
Thanks, caller.
Okay. And now we'll open the phone lines again. West of the Rockies, no.
If you're in American Samoa.
North of the Mason-Dixon line, south of the Mason, since we are in the south here.
Yeah. I like American Samoa, though. We ought to have a line for those guys.
The wild card line. No. I'm going to get sued, aren't I?
Probably, Scott.
No, I like Nori. He's got a great show.
Okay.
Anyway, so out of all these that you've done, since Ed basically, I guess you were basically, he kind of mentored you and throughout this thing. What did like you said, his sister? What did your mother think of all this that you were getting into?
Well, I chuckle over it now, and my uncle and my mom were twins.
Okay.
And when they were kids, they had a haunting in their house, which they thought was their their grandfather, which would be my great-grandfather. Anyways, that caused my uncle to want to pursue in this field to understand the paranormal. With my mom, it scared the daylights out of her. You could not even say the word ghost, she would get petrified over it. And her whole thing was, over the years, as I got more and more involved with it, and the deeper I got into it, she would always just stand there and just shake her head and say, I've always been afraid of this stuff, and here I got to get stuck with a kid that's just like my brother and gets involved with it. Yeah. And her whole thing was, she used to say to me all the time, I'd rather you were with my brother, at least I know you're okay. And, a lot of times when I would, talk about different things or anything, she would really not want to hear about it because it would scare her so bad. And that all went back to her being a child and her having that experience. That frightened her so bad that she just never wanted anything to do with it whatsoever.
Now, do you have any children of your own, John?
Yes, I have 3.
Are they interested in pursuing the same kind of career that you're in, or are they currently involved?
My oldest child wants nothing to do with it. My middle one's scared to death of it, and my youngest one follows in my footsteps.
Watch out!
Yes, and it was always It was a type of situation for many years. I kept my kids and my wife very, very distant from this, and that was to protect them. I chose to do this; they did not. So I always was very, very guarded and protected of them, and my youngest one, when he was about 16 years old, he got asked to speak in front of his class on what his dad did.
Oh.
And he got up there, and the teacher had called and was mentioning. And he came home, and I was asking him and talking to him, and I was dumbfounded at how knowledgeable he was over the work. Huh. And I said to him, I says, but I always kept you away from all this and everything. And he goes, Dad, he says, when we were all young, listening to you on the telephone was more interesting than watching anything on TV. He says, you never know what your conversations were going to lead into. So today he understands it. He knows what it's about. And a lot of times when I hear different people ask him things, his comment back with a lot of it is he goes, I've seen what my father went through. I've seen my father spend many, many hours on that phone and intermingle with people all over the place. He goes, all these people can't be nuts. He said, there's got to be something to all this. And he has gone to a couple of haunted locations, which is human spirit, as I refer to it. And he really does not have an interest as going into it as far as the exorcism part of it or participating in any of that. And I've said to him several times, I go, well, how come you don't have an interest in any of that? He goes, Dad, I've watched what you've gone through, and I've watched what some of these people go through. And he goes, I'm nowhere near ready to get involved with anything like that.
Now, knowing what you know now, is this something that you would relate to maybe how I know a lot of people that are missionaries and preachers and things like that say that they were called, they were called by God to do what they do. You as a Roman Catholic, do you feel that God called you to perform this type of service for people?
Well, I don't know so much that I per se feel that way myself. I've been told that. A tremendous amount of clergy and different people in our field have told me that. I look at it more that I was very inquisitive, that I wanted to understand it. I wanted to know, just like everybody else in the world, is there something after we leave? That was my whole thing as a child, trying to understand it. Is there more than what we really know? And I used to sit back and say to myself, well, people have been talking about ghosts, devils, and demons for thousands of years. There's got to be something to this. This can't be in everybody's imagination. And people can't just, think of these things. So that's what intrigued me. And that's what dragged me into it deeper and deeper, to trying to understand so many of the things that are so complex in our world. And I'm just scratching the surface 33 years later of understanding what the whole thing is all about and trying to piece it together. A key factor today in my work, it's very important. Back when I started, we used psychics and mediums, and we had our our tape recorders, and, we had very, very little equipment available to us. Today, it's amazing to watch what everybody gets on video, what they get on the infrared, getting the different temperature changes, watching them use all this equipment to be able to document the things that people pick up. When the psychics and these people are there and they're saying they feel something, and they're able to document it scientifically, to me that is a major achievement in our work. And I encompass all of that, and I encourage all of that. But on the other hand, like I tell so many people, just because we cannot prove something scientifically, we can't walk away with evidence, doesn't necessarily mean that a place is not haunted. We deal with the paranormal. It's the unknown. Always keep an open mind when you're involved with this and you're investigating and you're trying to understand these things. Unfortunately, our world isn't, cut and dry and black and white. That's what's intriguing about the paranormal. That's what keeps me going after 33 years. There's always something new to understand. There's always a new way to look at something. And people will always need help with the paranormal to try to understand some of the things that they're going through.
Let me give those numbers out again. It's 800-960-2289. Call and speak with John Zaffis. 800-960-2289 or 336-996-1596. 96, not cents. The website for Mr. John Zaffis is johnzaffis.com, I believe. Is that correct, John?
Yes, that'll take you into all my websites.
Okay, and that takes you into the museum site and everything.
Yeah. Well, John, what does the Vatican think of your exploits? I mean, and, have you got any word from the head central of the Catholic Church? I mean, you're Roman Catholic. You deal a lot with Catholic priests performing exorcisms. I mean, have they approached you at any point in the past?
Well, you have to remember, I intermingle with them. There's quite a few of the clergy within the Roman Catholic Church that I do deal with. And unfortunately, but fortunately, you can look at that from a perspective. They're not very open about discussing this. They try to keep exorcism extremely quiet. They try to keep it very, very low key. You have to remember, within the Vatican itself, there's a whole section of hundreds and hundreds of years of documentation of the exorcisms that have been performed worldwide. And all people that are involved with these exorcisms, whether it's a lay person like myself, the families, researchers, you're recorded in that documentation, and that's there forever and ever. So, my intermingling as far as, higher ups, no, I've never talked to the Pope. I'd like to, but I never have. Or some of the hierarchy in the Vatican, no. But, as it comes down the ranks, there has been people that I've intermingled with, yes.
Why do you think the Vatican tries to keep the... I'm sorry, Scott, I didn't mean to run over there.
You're fine.
Why do you think the Vatican is trying to keep it so secret? I mean, is it just to sort of pacify us?
They don't want to. They don't want us to feel like they don't want their people to feel that they're still so archaic. They want to feel. I mean, I think I'm answering the question, but I think
Yes,
from
Scott.
some of the things I've read, they don't want, they want to be a new and progressive church, and they don't want people to feel like they're back in the medieval days and they're hunting around, exorcising demons. Is that right, John? I mean,
well, that's part of it.
Okay.
When you look at that from a perspective, one of their things is, they don't want to give the devil recognition.
Yeah.
Bottom line. And they really don't want people giving it that type of thought. And, it's chaotic at the way that it's looked at from the Roman Catholic perspective. I mean, I know the inner workings of it. I know what happens, and I know how they handle everything. And I look at it where I understand it, but it's very difficult for someone on the outside to understand it. You have to remember, too, with them, the very, very little information that they do let out, and they say, it's been most recent where, our last two popes have basically said, yes, exorcisms are performed today. They've come right out and basically admitted to it. But they will not go in to any depth or any details to the amount of things that do occur behind the scenes. My biggest reasoning, or their biggest reasoning, is that I've been able to piece together is they're afraid that everybody is going to turn around and say they're possessed, and they're just going to get over bombarded with people claiming they're possessed.
well, if I'm correct in saying this, I know I read, that after the release of the movie The Exorcist, there were tons and tons of people, wanting demonic. Wanting, to be released from supposed demonic possession.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering also if maybe that had happened after the release of the Exorcism of Emily Rose film.
I did not really notice that things have changed that much after that movie was released, because over the past 3 to 4 years, things have been more in the forefront than they ever were in the past. It's talked about more. If a person does feel that there is something on a paranormal level happening, they will seek help more so now than they ever did before. So I can't say that movie was actually something that triggered something. But I will say this for that movie, the portrayal and some of the information that came forth in that movie is extremely accurate, especially with a lot of the information the priest came forward with, the interaction with the I'm drawing a blank, with the counseling, where they're going to have residual things occur in their lives for entering into these types of cases. These things do indeed happen, and they do transpire. And like that priest came out with so many different things. When I sat there and watched that, I was amazed at how accurate some of the statements were. Don't get me wrong, there's Hollywood hype in there, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's a movie. If you don't have Hollywood hype, no one's going to go see it.
Well, this was based off of something that took place in Germany anyway in the 1970s. Is that right?
That's correct. That was the exorcism of Anna Louise Michel, and if my memory serves me right, I think it was 1974 or 76, I believe.
Now, do you remember there's this one scene in the movie where the priest walks down the stairs, excuse me, and he sees this silhouette of this dark, cloaked figure. It's really eerie. And he sees things that no one else can see. Right. Have you had any similar experiences like that?
Yes.
Huh.
They're far and few in between, but I can probably, over 33 years, tell you of several incidences where that has basically occurred, where you'll see that black silhouette. It can be transparent, it can be solid. You usually cannot make out features that are on these particular things.
Uh-huh. Huh.
This past September, I was involved with a very intense exorcism where at the end of 2.5 hours, that black figure had appeared behind the individual and just went right through the wall. And there was six of us, I believe, at that exorcism, and 2 of us seen it, and the other people did not.
Huh. Weird. Actually, I have personal experiences with
black cloaked figures.
Yeah. Don't you remember, Scott?
Oh, you're talking about the thing from when you were a kid?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was really strange. I thought, but I won't get into that now.
Yeah, I don't have any experiences like that to bring across, nor do I want any, by the way.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with that.
So basically, the exorcisms that you perform, that you guys go out and do, I mean, what are the demographics? Do they pretty much just run the gambit, or have you seen patterns in the past of sort of a archetype for a possessed person?
Well, there's usually, your standard things that are very common with individuals. I mean, they gain an enormous amount of strength. They can't sleep. There's things that are around them. They hear voices. They're totally withdrawn. And these were perfectly normal, functioning people. They can't even work. They can't function. These are some of the characteristics or traits that can be from case to case to case. And a lot of times, these people can get scratched, they can get bit, and these are the things that occur with these individuals. And the majority of the time, and I hear it time and time again, these people already been to their doctors. They've already gone for psychological evaluation. Nobody can help them. This is very common, that this is the type of situation when a person already tells me, talk to my doctor, talk to my psychiatrist, please. I can't understand what's going on. They can't understand what's going on. Right then and there, that's a very common trait that I've noticed more so now than ever in the past, that people seek out professional help before I end up hearing from them.
Okay.
And then they find out it's something far beyond what a doctor's diagnosis can give them. We're gonna hold on for just a second here. We're gonna go to our last break.
How long is the break?
I don't know, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
4 minutes, 12 seconds, and 1 millisecond. Anyway, so we're
yes, we have it that accurately
that precise.
Okay.
So we're gonna go on a break, and we'll be right back with John Zaffis here on World of the Unexplained.
This will not look good on a resume!
You're listening to
We came, we saw, we kicked some serious ass.
Okay.
We're back.
John, you still with us? John? Oh, John, are you there?
Uh-oh.
Okay. Well, I think John will be joining us shortly, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. We did have a caller that just tried to call in.
And we were on break, callers.
Yeah,
so
we were on break, and we can't answer the phone. We can't answer that phone line. There it is.
But we don't have John yet. But okay.
Hello, caller.
Yes.
Hey, you're on the air.
Hi, this is John from Messina, New York.
Hey, John.
Hey, John.
I need to get up with you anyway, John. You won the crack house last week, and I need to know what prize you wanted. I mean, what archive you wanted.
I think it was a keychain. Yep.
Yeah. Well, no. What archive of our show?
Yeah.
That you
Which
want?
audio archive you want?
JFK.
Okay.
Jim Mars.
Jim Mars. All right.
That's cool.
Very good. Well, we're waiting for John. I think he took a break. I know he needed to get grab some water. So.
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, John.
Great,
okay,
great.
excellent.
All right.
You have a caller.
Yes.
Hi, John. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. This is from another John.
John, meet John. Anyway.
Quick question. I'm curious. I tuned in late in the show. How many exorcisms have you done per year? Actually, what out of all the ones you've done, what is the longest and hardest one you had to do?
Well, I would say probably the length of one of the very last exorcisms in this past fall, we went like 3 hours long straight. I mean, we didn't even really take a break on that one. That was very intense. That was a very, very strong type of situation. It's hard, really, for me to say that that there's something in particular that stands out, because I've been involved with them where they can last an hour up to, like I said, 3 hours without taking a break, and then you can take a break and then start back up again. So it depends on the circumstances, and it depends on the clergy that you're working with, that the intensity and the duration that they will go. Sometimes you can go one day and then they'll want to take a day and start back up the following day, or they might want to wait a few more days. So it depends. Some could even want to wait a duration of a month or even a little bit longer in between them. So it's very difficult for me to say, but I would say the most in length was about 3 hours, and that was this past fall.
Okay. Anything else for us, John?
Yes. Curious. I asked how long the longest one was. How long have you been doing this with exorcisms?
Exorcisms, I'd say I think it's about 22 or 23 years. But I've been involved with the paranormal for 33 years.
Mm-hmm. So you think it's very real, everything. Do you think it can be? Have there been some cases where it could have been just a mental disorder, like schizophrenia or something, or?
Absolutely, and those types of situations do occur, and it takes a lot of time when you're dealing with a situation like that. You have to remember, we know scientifically today that when a person is in their early 30s, and that's a very common age bracket where mental illness can develop. So, you have to remember sometimes when dealing with these things, you have to take that into consideration. And you have to make sure you're ruling out as many possibilities as you possibly can before I would consider calling somebody possessed. So it can be very lengthy sometimes, too, when you get involved with cases, on knowing that that person has a spiritual problem in comparison to dealing with somebody that might just have, a problem with being bipolar or schizophrenia. So it gets very in-depth when dealing with these types of situations. It's not something that is very cut, clear, dry when you get involved.
Oh, okay.
Well, thank you, John. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, caller.
Thank you, John.
Sorry.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, John calls in every week.
Yeah,
He's
I don't
one
know
of our
why I said
diehards.
I don't know why I said caller. That
I was going to say, come on, man.
Sorry about that.
We
John.
don't know who's calling, so we just have to take them as they come. We have no awesome production guy sitting down there giving us our feeds. So
yeah, that's all right though.
We're low budget here.
No. No,
okay.
No, I don't.
What was your experience like working with Father Martin, or should I call him Father Martin? I don't know if he had another title, Bishop Martin. I don't know exactly how high up he was in the Catholic Church. I knew he was pretty high at one point in that hierarchy. At least that's my understanding.
Malachi, he was a quirky little guy.
Uh-huh.
He was very comical, and he was extremely knowledgeable when it came to dealing with all these things. I was just very fortunate. There was two cases that came to him when I first met him years back, and they were both here in Connecticut. And both of them, he had called me and asked me to do an initial investigation on them. And I was like so excited. Malachi Martin. You can't ask for anything better, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So I, went out, did my first investigation and checked it out and everything. And he said to me, he goes, do you feel that it warrants further investigation? And I said, yes, I do. And he said, okay. And he just asked me a multiple of a lot of the different questions. The second case that he had sent over to me, went and checked it out and everything, and talking to him and everything, and he says, do you feel it warrants further investigation? And I told him no. And he goes, now, why do you feel that way? And I explained to him that I felt that the person had some serious issues that probably a psychiatrist could help him with, and that I really didn't feel that it was so much on a paranormal type of circumstances. Well, at that point in time, I said to myself, I just blew ever working with him again, thinking that. Well, not knowing him as well as I did get to know him over the years, he chuckled a little bit, and he goes, well, he says, you do understand what to look for. And, it just didn't register right or anything like that. Then shortly after that, we were down, a whole bunch of us got together in the city where he lived, and we had lunch with him. And I said to him, I says, I still don't quite understand that whole thing. And he goes, well, John, that was basically a test. And I said, a test? And he goes, I just wanted to see if you were able to tell the difference when somebody could possibly have a paranormal problem or mental illness. He said, I already came to conclusions, but he said, I wanted to see if you were going to be honest with me.
Wow.
So, I took that as an insult at that time. Now, I look at that as that was one of the best things anyone could have done. And he said to me, he says, you stand your ground. He said, you took that chance. And I said, well, yeah, because it was the honest chance. I was being honest with you, and that's all that mattered to me. And he goes, that's all that mattered to me. And after that, we got to be very good friends. And, he, like I said, he was an interesting person. Hearing his stories of the different things he was involved with and different exorcisms that he had performed, you would think, just like talking to any of us that gets involved with this, it's far-fetched.
Yeah.
You are going to think that. But when you deal with people, just like Malachi or Bishop McKenna, and you sit down and you have those opportunities to listen to the stories and hear the different things that these people were involved with, and you look back on it and you have that opportunity to reflect on it, you sit back and go, wow, that was one heck of a tough dude to be able to stand there and fight with that, and to be able to take that upon themselves, because they are the ones that are drawing it out. They are bringing it forth. And that does take its toll on all clergy that does do this.
I imagine so.
You watch this and you learn this and you understand it. And I look back and, like I said, I reflect upon that. And with Malachi, I was just very glad that I had that opportunity to work with him a couple of times and to be around him several times, socializing and being involved with some other events.
Okay. We've got about 4 minutes.
Oh, okay.
4 minutes more with you, John. Any last thoughts? Or Trent, you have a question real quick?
Yeah, actually I do. I'm sorry. It's been floating around here on the chat room. But basically this particular person asks, why do exorcisms always seem to happen to the Catholics?
It doesn't just happen with the Catholics.
Yeah.
For some reason, and I tried to figure this out many times myself, but it just seems to be more or of the forefront with the Catholics. I don't know why. I mean, it's done, the rites of exorcisms are done in every religion. I mean, we know Judaism was around. It predates Christianity, and the rabbis many years ago used to perform exorcisms. They still do today. So why so much is it just a focus in on the Roman Catholics? I still can't answer that. But every religion out there has their rites of exorcism. But for some reason or another, I don't know if it just has to do with the movie The Exorcist or what it is, but it stands out more in the forefront when it comes to Catholics.
I have another question here by one of our chat room people. It says, So ask this guy where he finds all his priests. Are they all Roman Catholics? Does he have any Pentecostal preachers as associates? And that's interesting because you know how the Pentecostal church, how they have a lot of their group, I guess I call them group exorcism, where they're exorcising the demons of alcoholism, anxiety, stress, things of that nature. Do you have any Pentecostals? Or
Absolutely. I don't necessarily call them my clergy, but a lot of them are very good friends with mine, especially down south. I mean, you know, this is a very, very common thing, and I intermingle with a lot of the different clergy. It doesn't matter the denomination to me whatsoever. Bottom line is, if it's a minister, a priest, a rabbi, a Buddhist, a shaman, they're there to help the people. That is their belief systems. And I've seen some really outstanding performances, if you will, by all different clergy of all different faiths. It doesn't really matter.
Even the Baptists.
They're very powerful and they're very strong in their belief systems in being able to help people.
What about atheists, though, John? Have you?
Atheist is another interesting perspective because people that go through these things, they have no belief systems. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in the devil. They don't believe in anything.
Yeah.
And they go through these paranormal experiences. And I'll say to them, well, what do you think it is? I don't know what it is. I don't believe in all this stuff, but I can't explain it. Doctors can't explain it. Nobody can explain it. Well, you look at that from a little bit different of a perspective. And if that person is willing to have clergy do some prayers over them, perform some, exorcism or what have you over that individual, and it frees that individual from what was plaguing them, that alters that person. And that person has to go back and reevaluate and say to
religion pretty quick.
I don't know exactly what I believe in, but I know this happened. I know those prayers helped me, so I have to reevaluate the way I look at things.
Right. Okay.
Any final words, John?
Well, I just tell people be very, very careful. It's a very intriguing world out there. We're practicing a lot of things, playing with the Ouija board, playing with the tarot, summoning of different things. I always tell people be extremely, extremely careful what you do and what doors you open up, because once you open those doors up, you cannot control what comes through. So I always tell people, please be very careful when venturing into involving themselves with a lot of these different types of activities.
Okay. Well,
all right, well, that was John Zaffis. John, thank you so much for being a guest on our show.
Thank you for having me on.
It's been a pleasure, and I hope you you come back and talk to us real soon.
Anytime.
Tell Lorraine and Ed I said hi.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much, John.
Okay, take care, guys.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh,
okay,
wow.
That was John Zaffis.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
He is. I mean,
very interesting.
I was pretty impressed. It's pretty exciting. Actually, unfortunately, I had other questions, and we just ran out of time.
I know. It's okay. It's crack house time now.
What?
It's crack house time now.
I don't smoke crack. So.
I know you don't smoke crack. No, the Woe2 Crack House $2 Pyramid.
What? Are you talking about the
Woe2 Crack House $2 Pyramid? Yes, sir.
$2 pyramid.
Where you can win our stuff, listeners. That's right. Just call in 800-960-2289 or 336-996-1596. Little game we play. I asked Trent this week. He's in the hot seat. I'm going to ask him 5 questions about horror movies, seeing that our next week's guest is Ethan Dietenmeyer.
Oh, yes.
From St. John Smith movie. He's a director. And he's going to be on next week, and so I figured the topic was just right.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's fair enough. But you need a caller, though.
We do need a caller.
So give the numbers.
Give us a call, 800-960-2289 or 336-996-1596. These numbers can be found on the front page of worldoftheunexplained.com as well. And usually we have a caller by now, but we do realize that we're operating on a 2-minute delay.
Yeah, those sort of things happen.
Yeah, and
Scott, you didn't play the music.
I hadn't played the music yet because I don't have a caller yet. Well, I'll go ahead and play the music if that'll make you feel better.
It would actually.
Okay, we need a caller for the Crack House, so we're going to play the music for the Crack House, the Woe2 $2 Pyramid Crack House. Here we go. Okay, that's a wonderful dead air. I'm looking for the. I thought I had it.
It's not dead air. I'm laughing.
I know. Well, yeah,
I'm laughing at your clicking and looking.
I had the mic off though.
Well,
so
the mic's off. Oh, we got a caller.
There's our caller. Hang on a second. Let's grab him. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, I wanted to play the crack ice here.
Okay, great. What's your name?
This is Rick.
Rick. Oh, okay. All right. Rick wants to play the crack. Rick from Audio Martini.
Well, you guys were talking about screens earlier, so I just wanted to...
Oh, well, fair enough.
That's fair enough. I'm trying to find our crack house theme right now, Rick. I'm going to find it in a second. I know I will.
Scott.
It's in here, man. It's. This is what happens when you know we've got to have the crack house music.
Okay.
That is something that has to happen.
It just won't feel the same, I guess.
I found the crack house music.
All right, play.
Hang tight for just a second, Rick. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, and those of other persuasions, lock your doors and hide your valuables, because it's time now for another exciting round of the game show everybody's talking about in abandoned alleys everywhere. It's the 1-2 Crack House $2 Pyramid. So give it up for the tycoons of trivia, Jay Scott and Trent Lackey, who every week give away their stuff to some lucky listener.
Okay, that was a crack house music.
Finally.
All right.
All right, bring Rick.
Rick, you still there?
Yep, still here.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I'm out of here.
All right, great. Trent is going outside right now. So, Trent, is that on? Yeah. Okay. Is that unmuted?
No.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, give me some volume there. All right. Who let the dogs out? Okay. Hang on. Let's see what we got here, Rick. I've got to cue the music.
The tension is just unbearable, man.
It's mounting, I know. Do you know a lot about horror movies?
A little something about it.
Okay. What classic horror film features a serial killer in a William Shatner mask?
That would be Halloween.
What horror film caused some theaters to suggest moviegoers prone to motion sickness should sit in the aisle seats?
That would be No, hold on. That would be Airport 77.
What horror film was Johnny Depp first introduced in?
Ed Wood.
Who was the killer in the original Friday the 13th?
That would be Friday the 13th. Would be crap.
No, we're out of time anyway.
Or Freddy.
All right, no,
Wrong.
Freddy's
Sorry.
not in. Okay, Halloween, you're correct. Blair Witch Project was actually the answer to number 2, and Nightmare on Elm Street was where Johnny Depp made his first horror film appearance. And Mrs. Voorhees was the actual killer in the original Friday the 13th. Didn't you watch Scream, man? I ripped that question directly from there, and I didn't get to my last one, which is what actor plays Freddy Krueger. And that answer is Robert Englund, but Trent's going to be in here in just a second. Let me go get him. And until then, if you'll hang on with me on the line, we're going to see how much Trent knows about this. You got one right. So let's give me just a second, and I'll be right back.
All right.
This is real pro, guys.
It's real.
And of course, the filmmakers here.
Yeah.
And this happens.
It's real for sure, whatever it is. Okay, Scott, I'm ready.
right.
I'm going to start it.
Next track.
Okay.
What classic horror film features a serial killer in a William Shatner mask?
What? I don't know.
Okay. What horror film caused some theaters to suggest moviegoers prone to motion sickness should sit in the aisle seats?
I don't know. Vertigo? That's Mel Brooks.
What horror
Sorry.
film was Johnny Depp first introduced in?
I don't know that either.
Who was the killer in the original Friday the 13th?
The mom. Jason's mom.
What actor plays Freddy Krueger?
Robert Englund.
All right. You got 2. Sorry, Rick.
Edward Scissorhands.
You lost.
See, I thought you really had to smoke crack before you played.
No. That's where you messed up. Okay.
Me, I just took some horse. That's all.
Now, for those of you that don't know, Rick Wood has a show on, and it's called Audio Martini. It's on the Omnisound Radio 1 network, omnisoundradio1.net. And it's what is that? Also audiomartini.com, Rick.
That's right. Thanks for the plug, fellas.
All right, man.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Have a good
you.
one, guys.
We appreciate you calling in.
We'll
Get up
send you your
with
stuff.
me later, and I'll send you some stuff.
Okay, Bart, thanks.
All right, bro.
Thanks,
Take
Rick.
care.
Bye-bye.
Well, what were the answers to the questions, Scott?
Okay, yeah, I told him that Halloween.
William Shatner?
Yeah, what they did is they were working on a low budget.
Uh-huh.
And basically what happened was they decided to use a mask of William Shatner that they had gotten, and they strung the hair up on it, and they repainted it, and they did some things to it.
Wow.
And the horror film that caused the Vertigo, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because that's what I thought when I first saw the...
oh, wait a minute. No, Vertigo. High Anxiety is what I'm thinking of the Mel Brooks film.
This is actually Blair Witch Project, believe it or not. I guess because the camera was so shaky because of what they were using. The first horror film, I thought more people knew this, that Johnny Depp was introduced in was Nightmare on Elm Street.
Really?
And the killer in the original Friday the 13th, you were right, Mrs. Voorhees, or Jason's mom, and Robert Englund, you got that correct. We've got about a minute here, so we're going to get out of here.